Checkity check, everybody. Hello. I like to give it a minute, see if anybody shows up. Always kind of questionable. Gotta bring my little comment section up. Beautiful. And all that. Move this window. Dum. Show and tell. Oh, somebody just thumbs up to me. That's awful nice. I'm just going to get started then. This is the post. This is a year old. I've just had it bookmarked forever because it's like just complicated enough that I just need a little motivation to get fully through it. Hi, Andrew, #1 viewer. And it's not a huge blog post because what it is a whole bunch of slides and a link to, a recorded video of Bramus talking about it. And I kind of intentionally haven't watched it, which is unusual for me because I watch a lot of YouTube technical crap because I just enjoy it and whatnot. So I'll save this for myself later, but I want to kind of explore it for the first time on my own. And I tried to do this last week and then had audio issues and stuff. So I'm kind of redoing it just for fun. So the title of the thing is If View Transitions and Scroll-Driven Animations Had a Baby. So I wanted to make the point first that that's intriguing to me because they are, in my mind, super different pieces of technology that we have available on the front end. But I can sort of get how they're related because the view transition moves some stuff. Hello, everybody. Moves some stuff on a page, and scroll-driven animations is kind of like the timeline for movement. So I'm thinking that you scroll to view transition instead of over time. Anyway, it's weird to me. He does have a demo, and we might as well just look at the demo immediately. I guess that's here. You see, okay, my freaking head is over top of it, though. Where should my head go? Just smaller, maybe? Make me tiny. I go over here. All right, and I remember this. In fact, I think, does he link it up in here? He probably does in the blog post that it's, this demo is a slidified version. Where's the little credit here? You might recognize the UI here as it's a follow-up to the View Transitions poster child demo by Maxi Ferraria. I remember this when Astro View Transitions came out, which was really just, Astro didn't invent view transitions. I think they just had a couple of helper functions or something that did it. I don't know. Or maybe they auto polyfilled it for you or something. But you remember this? There's no scroll-driven animations happening here. That's just a video. Actually, that just looks amazing, doesn't it? That is freaking... a card with a video on it just looks beautiful to me. But as you clicked this, it had a view transition that would what? Yeah, how satisfying is that? This was an amazing demo because it got everybody excited on the future of this, and it was it has an SPA-like feel without being an SPA, the page does actually reload here, just like a traditional one. I think it's so seamless that you can barely tell. That feels like an SPA 100% to me. Anyway, this demo's been out in a while. Maxi did an amazing job on it. Bramus recreated it in his demo, only look, you don't click, you scroll. That's weird. But okay. And the point of this is he made it make sense because this is like a playlist and the tracks for the playlist are underneath it. So as you scroll down to get to those tracks, we're getting the view transition. So we could just do this with just a scroll-driven animation, right? We'd set up a scroll-driven animation and we would put stuff, we would just tell it to do certain things. We could wire up these all to one big scroll-driven animation, or an SDA, It took me a minute to understand as Bramus throws that acronym around, but there it is in the code there. You can see it, SDA, scroll driven animation. We could just use a scroll-driven animation, but the way Bramus did it is somehow he wired up a view transition and then had the scroll-driven animation just be the timeline, I guess, for the view transition, which is very weird and mind-blowing-y to me. So first, let's make sure we understand view transitions. We did this on the stream a week or two ago or whatever, where you can click these buttons in here. Hello, everyone's popping in. It's wonderful to see everybody. Feel free to comment whatever. These are totally view transition driven. So there's just this thing we called document.start view transition, and then we change the DOM in some way. And it does some of the animation for us. By default, all it does is a fade out and fade in animation. That's kind of cool. But of course, we can do better than that if we take one little step further and we give them all a unique view transition name. Or in our case, all we do is say view transition name match element, which is a newfangled way that makes us not have to put list item 1, list item 2, list item 3, list item 4 on all these. We don't have to do that anymore. We can just say match element, although the browser support is less for match element, so be aware of that. But then we're not going to get all of this fancy stuff, but what we will get is oranges moving up the list and all the other list items moving down to make room for it. We'll get that from this one line. And that one line of code, we get that with our view transition, which is nice. And it had me thinking about the spirit of view transitions. And to me, the spirit is you get a bunch for free, and then you incrementally add more and more the more control that you want. So this is we're adding a little bit more code and getting a little bit more action from it. As a matter of fact, why don't we just comment out all of this stuff? And I think we should see that at work. Let's comment out our custom view transition stuff, but we're still going to see it move up. So we're getting that action from the fact that we're using document.start view transition and view transition name match element. If we didn't even do match element, we're going to get a fade out, fade in. You're still seeing movement. That's actually pretty good. For a absolutely do nothing in CSS, that movement is pretty decent. I'm surprised that we got that. Maybe I did put view transition names on here. I don't think I did, though. I think I intentionally didn't. Yeah. Anyway, I guess you get movement now, even if you don't do this. But we get a little bit better behavior of the movie uppies, moving downies if we do. But then we're like, well, I want a little bit more control. I don't have to describe anything about this. I'm not describing how to move to the top of this list. I'm just putting it on top of this list. I'm not describing all the other elements that they need to move down. I didn't have to tell anybody anything about that. It just did it because it's just tweening between the positions as if there's no animations. Pretty neat. And then we're just sprinkling in a little bit more. If we want them to have a whoosh animation, a whoosh being it comes out, it scales bigger, it has the box shadow, we can sprinkle in that if we want to. And because each of these SVGs has its own view transition name on it, I think it doesn't come along for that ride. It has its own. It's that's okay. I got my own thing going on. And that's when we added this a little bit more. So it's kind of you get a bunch of animation for free, and then you take control over the little bits you want to have control over. That, to me, is the spirit of a view transition. You just sprinkle in how much control you actually want. Okay, that's a view transition. Then we have scroll-driven animations, and my point of doing this on the stream is that they're just super different. And whatever, so I want to understand them more. So we have this loader div here. What is a loader div? Okay, well, it's just this fixed position element, and it's 100% wide and 50% tall. So it should just be this red bar across the top, but you don't see the red bar across the top. How come you don't see it, even though this code makes you look like it's being seen? Oh, it's because it has an animation applied to it, and the from part of that animation kicks it off the page exactly 100%. That's why we don't see the red bar across the top. And then some kind of animation happens to make it move in from the left to the right. Well, what is that animation? Notice there's no time at all. There's no 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 375 milliseconds. None of that is happening in here. The timeline instead is this custom ident. this custom ident that we applied specifically up here. You don't just get it for free. You have to say, what element are you trying to watch the scroll position on? Oh, this one, the one that matches the selector. Then you give it a name that has to be a custom ident, meaning it has to look like a custom property, but it's just the name of it. And then you say which direction you want the scrolling in. So the block just means it's the vertical direction. Cool. So now the timeline is just how far that element has scrolled. So it's going to move from off the page to on the page over time. Very satisfying. That's one of the kinds of scroll-driven animations is possible. The other kind, which is frankly a little bit cooler to me, is the ones when you apply a scroll timeline, or it's not a scroll timeline, it's a view timeline to certain elements, and then the timeline becomes how far they're visible in the document, and it's frankly cooler and probably will end up being a little bit more common of a view transition type. We're not, the point is they're still based on scroll position and stuff, but that's pretty different. This scroll driven thing is obviously pretty different than these, these things where you just, an event happens. You call it specific. You call it whenever you want to call it. You call it on a set timeout. Call it on when you've scrolled to a certain position. Call it when you double click something. Call it when the page loads. I don't know. It's on an event, where scroll driven animations are always attached to scrolling happening. Chase here is asking, what other options are there other than block? It's just one other option. I think it's just inline, which means horizontal scrolling. In this case, it wouldn't even work because there is only horizontal, or there's only vertical scrolling in here. I think if we set inline here, this whole thing's just going to blow up. It's not going to run at all because it's like already 100% scrolled, I guess is how the browser would interpret it, as in the inline direction. Maybe there's a way to say inline and block, but I don't think so. I think it needs to be a omnidirectional. It needs to, I think there maybe could be a second scroll timeline for I'm hesitant to tell you this, but page scroll inline in the inline direction. Maybe it allows that. Let's see. Does it blow up? No, that works. So it looks like a different custom ident for a different scroll direction. I'm sure there's use cases for that. Kind of interesting, but for the most part, we're interested in the block direction. I just guessed at that syntax. That's what a CSS professional I am, apparently. So two different concepts, but now we have them. Bramus smashed them together, which I totally don't understand. So we're going to attempt to figure that out. Is there anything interesting in the HTML? A draggable avatar? That's interesting. Why is draggable false? Does it make it, look at that. Does that prevent, avatar of Bramus. Does that make me so I can't do that? I'm trying to grab it and pull it. I didn't know you could do that. If I do this, does it become draggable then? It kind of does. I get the little earth icon. Whereas if I put draggable false, I don't. Get the little earth icon. That is fascinating. I have never used that on an image before. Don't hate it though. But I think for it's a little bit of stuff at the top up here that we're looking at, and then track, which is track. I think this is, Bramus probably put so many tracks in there just so there'd almost definitely be vertical scrolling to be had. So I don't think any of this is the point of it. In fact, I don't even see any view transition names being applied here. Sometimes you see that in HTML because everything needs to be unique. And so sometimes people just apply them as inline styles in the HTML to do that. But I don't think there's anything to look at in the HTML. CSS wise, I see it's all kind of layered up. Let me refresh. I think it might remember my collapsings. No, it didn't. Anyway. All right. So there's a layer called scroll snapping at the top. I guess if everything is layered, should we do that? Collapse, fold all. Yeah, it's all layered. That's interesting. So this would be the highest or the most powerful layer, I suppose. It has a supports query in there, checking for view transition names and scroll timelines. Fair enough. Has some scroll snapping. Well, why? Oh, I see. If you just scroll it even the littlest bit, or at some point it grabs. That's funny. As I see it snapping, I don't know if that would be strictly necessary. I almost don't like it. What if we got rid of it? Then it lets me, will it let me do it more chill? Yeah, just stop where I stop. I prefer that, but interesting. It is, I don't blame Bramus necessarily because sometimes it's nice to see all this fancy new browser technology like kind of come together. And certainly that's one of them. At some point it snaps and then it stays up there. Whatever. Okay. So then card large, card small. I don't really know what that is. I'm not sure we care right now. We have some before elements that are being snapped to. Maybe that helps with the snappage because I think you need a scroll snap element. And so the scroll snap element becomes just this random, otherwise invisible element at the top of each card and each track. Okay, fair enough. I don't fully understand why it has to be a pseudo element, but I'm sure there's a good reason. So that's scroll snapping, which we don't really care about. View transitions, much more interesting. Configure the durations. So we're setting up a bunch of actual custom properties here. Look at these hanging them off, view transition. I didn't really know you could do that. I know about view transition old and new and group and pairs. But what does this do? Maybe it does nothing. Maybe it's just an opportunity to scope in a way some custom properties. That's cool. And then we have a view transition group. All groups are as long as the transition and they happen linearly. That's interesting. What's another animation property? Ease? What would happen if we eased it? Would we notice the difference? Oh yeah. Like it almost, you kind of feel the easing. Does that feel better? What's like super different? Animation, timing function app. I want one of those little apps that allows you to do something really weird with it. Helper app. I got off Kaggy because I search so much that it was costing me too much money for questionable amount of. Here we go. Caesar? Yeah. What if we made it like whack weird? Like that. Is that going to give us an animation timing function? Can we use that? Here? Will we notice how weird it is? Yeah, look at how fast it is now. I can barely scroll at all and it's like a goner. Then it comes back. That rules. It bounces. It's essentially this number is so whack that it goes off the screen entirely before coming back. Okay, well, that's great. But linear probably makes more sense because as you scroll, that's kind of a linear feeling. All right, well, that's happening, I guess. Then there's an image pair. Could not totally tell you what that is, but I think the word image is referring to that during a view transition, what's happening is like essentially screenshots of what's going on or like a locked DOM copy of what's happening. And a whole bunch of inheritance. Inherits the delay and easing and stuff onto the group of child pseudos. Okay. I can't say 100% understand that, but I get that it wants everything to kind of behave the same way. Maybe that's the trick. View transition, I guess we could have moved that up here, but whatever. You don't want allow cursor to send events to underlying page while a view transition is running. And then a bunch of custom keyframes and stuff. Maybe we'll get to that. What I don't understand is like when I think of a view transition, I think of the before state now and the after state now. Like what is the before state and the after state? How are those defined? Because it looks like this is the before state and this is the after state. So like how do we know that or whatever? And we might have to go to JavaScript to find it maybe. Okay, so he's got something apparently of his own creation. So maybe we go to like npmjs.com and look at it. npm.js.com/ npmjs. Oh, is there a little ampersand deal? What do you call it? An @ sign? Scroll driven animation utilities. It's on NPM. Run once. Run a scroll driven animations only once. Example, run the fade animation for a hero only once. But you're also running it on demand, I guess, rather than, I don't know. And then track progress, which is the one we're pulling in here, right? Track progress is being pulled in. Track progress of an animation subject. And you get animations on it, which I think is just a regular DOM API. Get the first one, which is, I don't know, maybe that's always the view transition. I don't know. Then you query it again for some reason and get the inner text. Oh, it's just so that you can say how far the progress of that view transition is. All right, so we need that for some reason. What was I going to do with this? Oh, I was just showing off another version of a scroll-driven animation with fixed position elements. I didn't know if that's what was happening here or not. I don't think anything is fixed position here, though, in the end. All right, so we have that. Uses a dummy SDA, scroll-driven animation, linked to the range. Uses track progress, that's the thing we just looked at, to get the scroll-driven animation progress and sync it to the VT, view transition, when in range. Certainly that's at the heart of all of this, I would think. Track position uses RAF, that's request animation frame. Seems like a perfect use case for custom effects and/or progress events. That feels to me like internal Chromie talk. Like, I made this demo and I want more APIs because my demo would be better for it. It probably will be. I don't really know what that means. It's probably stuff that doesn't exist yet. So there's a function called go. Go gets called when the window is loaded. So that's just going to run right away. It will wait till the images are loaded and stuff. I wonder if that's why that's there. Maybe because a script like this in CodePen will get loaded at the bottom of the page anyway. So it's interesting. I wonder if you need to wait for this image to be fully loaded for the view transitions to work nicely or something. I'm sure it's intentional. So we have a card and some tracks, and we're measuring the height of stuff. We're setting some properties to heights. Not super sure why. I'm sure there's good reason for all this. Setting a duration. Making the card faux sticky and offset of the tracks. So it's not faux sticky means we're going to use position or fixed instead. If we look at this, is it already position fixed? Our little dude here. I might have to make the browser smaller so I can see more. Sunglasses, dude. Are you already position fixed? Do you become position fixed in the middle of this? No. Oh, it's the card. What is the card? This is the card. Oh, it is position fixed. Is it position fixed all the time? Yeah, it must be, because this isn't conditionally called. It's just called all the time. So why isn't it in the CSS? Maybe it's because it only matters to do that if the JavaScript actually runs. Probably. It's probably just being a good netizen, Determine things to track. That's the axis. Y meaning the block direction, I suppose. Start 4 pixels. Small leeway to not start the view transition at the very top. Interesting. And then look at a named Chrome bug. That's funny. What does it do? It's if Chrome, then return offset.mul. What is mul? I don't even want to look it up. Multiply? I've literally never seen .mul. I don't know. I don't know anything. Cool. Well, it fixes some Chrome bug, apparently, and only in Chrome. Then we're going to call a .animate, which is a thing that we haven't talked about at all. These are just JavaScript animations. So we need to define a scroll timeline. Is this what you're talking about? The dummy thing? Oh yeah, a dummy scroll driven animation linked to the range. I have a feeling that's particularly important here. So we're attaching it to the y-axis. We're setting those offsets with the fixed Chrome bug. So it's a dummy SDA. Interesting. Document element, new scroll timeline. We'll see how we use SDA later, I suppose. Ooh, that doesn't collapse very well, does it? Code mirror weirdness. So then we have a start view transition. That's just a name of something, which is an asynchronous function. And this is the juicy bit, I guess. I mean, that's the thing that's the real whatever browser level start view transition. And we're toggling. Oh, this is the before and after state. So the before state is just what it is. And then we select the card and we toggle the class of small on it. And then it's asynchronous so that we're waiting until it's ready here. So this runs after it's ready. Immediately pause all animations linked to it. That seems crucial too. So anim, what's anim again? Oh, it's here. It's you're filtering all animations. So it's whatever. I guess it's looping over each one and seeing, does it start with : view transition? Is it that kind of animation? Then, oh, I see. The reversing is probably necessary so this works both ways. You need to know which direction you're scrolling. But no matter what, you want to pause them all. I see. So instead of it happening immediately, this would otherwise happen immediately. Like you're toggling, the view transition is just going to go. There's nothing in this code that's waiting for the view transition to run. So it just runs the view transition immediately. But it also immediately pauses them all. And it's not just one, apparently it's a bunch of them. It's probably any individual element that has a view transition on it now automatically has an animation, and we were able to find each one of them here. Wow, that's wild. And then you update animations with the amount of progress. And progress surely is determined by track progress, the custom library here, right? That's fascinating. Except for, oh yeah, so track progress. Progress is between 0 and 1. Then we call our start view transition function, that we pass in the progress. So we know how far we are in the view transition. If we're out of range, then we need to be like, don't freak out. Get rid of it. Which must mean it's completely done or completely not started yet, meaning it's probably within those first 4 pixels of the page. Be like, no animations need to be running at that point. Like, don't get into maybe it's an infinite loop stopper even potentially. I don't know for sure, but that's interesting. So where are we? Where's the scroll driven animation? You'd think that would be the thing that would know the progress. This track progress is about the view transitions progress, not the scroll driven animations progress. Ooh, that's complicated. Good thing I'm doing this on a stream, so I actually remember. Kind of forces my brain to understand it. Okay, well, there's some more stuff to explore in the CSS, but now we at least kind of get what's going on, that these view transitions are immediately applied and then paused so that their progress can be controlled by a different mechanism. That's the point, I guess. Kind of amazing that that's even possible to me. But this is where we kind of left off. There's some specific keyframes being called, and I thought this is what I meant by like, we're applying a little control. Like I don't think we'll need to do anything in this. This is probably Bramus being like, I want some of these things to behave slightly differently, and I want to express that control in CSS. Just like this was, we just layered on these ideas. Some of these probably layer on what's going on. So on the root, there's no view transition. Interesting. The card has the card transition name. Meta's meta. Okay, so it's individual view transition names for different parts. What is .meta then? .meta is the thing that wraps, it's all this. That's what meta is. And that has a unique animation. What is that unique animation? Or it just has a unique view transition name. So it moves all together is the point. So as we scroll, do we see that? Yeah, it's just fading out. It doesn't move. Even though it's totally gone in this, it just changes opacity. And I do see that there's specifically a keyframe for that, but does that ever get applied to .meta? Or does it not need to be because it's otherwise gone? More meta. Why is it more meta? Animation none, display none. Oh, here's meta. Yeah, there it is. So view transition name meta, and meta is matching the view transition name that we applied. So view transition name meta, that's what : view transition old only child. And that only child means that it doesn't have an old and a new state. It's either transitioning between display none and display block. I know it's a weird little trick, but I learned that at CSS Day. It's a good one from Sid. And so when it's on its way out, it uses the animation fade out. So that's what's fading it out there. I guess we could mess with it to prove that that's true. So if our keyframe fade out instead did something really weird like scale 2 or something, that instead of fading out, it's going to get really big. Yeah, there you go. So we're applying just how much CSS control we want. That's freaking weird. Interesting. So what other interesting little keyframes are there? There's a slide up, a slide down, a fade out, and a fade in. So what does a slide up and slide down? Do we see them? Okay, here they are. Slide up and slide down apply to the description. And the description is a thing with a class of description that has a view name of description. So if we look at the HTML for something with description, most popular songs for that summer. Most popular songs for that summer. Okay, that thing is getting slid. So as we move this, oh yeah, we can see it sliding up. And sliding up and fading out. Does it call both? Yeah, it's slide up and fade out. How fascinating. So it's sliding up and fading out. It's moving up, though, as we're moving down. I guess that makes sense. But it's kind of marching to the beat of its own drum, isn't it? You can see that it's moving at a different rate than everything else is. I mean, dude's head here feels like the real scroll. That's what would actually happen when we scrolled, but it's moving slower. So duty overtakes it. So we're moving things at a different vertical rate, and that rate is probably just how far it's told to move, right? In that keyframe, if we can find it, it's just being moved. Oh, it's being translated negative 100% of itself. So it'll never move more than one version of itself, plus how far the page is actually scrolled. Oh, not really. That's weird. I wish I could draw on the screen quick, but this isn't exactly Zoom, so I don't think I can do that. But if you imagine like a line right there, it only moves up to 100% of itself as I scroll this up. That's wild. But that's what that's saying to do, or slide up rather. Huh. All right, well, so it's, like I said, it's just sprinkling in this control. I bet if we just kill these keyframes, things are still going to move, and they're still going to move to their final positions, which is, part of the view transition, right? This should still do its job. Yeah, so summer vibes, whatever these two things are, they don't have any, there's no special animation code being applied to them. They just have a view transition name and a before and after state. So they just move to where they're told to move. But if I want a little more control over that, I can choose to give them a custom view transition name and then use that view transition name in these new and old and groups and only child and all that fanciness to apply more styling if I want to. So I'm in this if they had a baby thing. The idea is I kind of have to do less work. I mean, this looks like a lot of work, and in a way it's a lot of work, but I didn't have to describe, I want summer vibes to move 150 pixels up and then move to the left and then blah, 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 where I'd have to be really specific if I was designing just a scroll-driven animation. I'd have to be really, really specific about each element and where I wanted it to be and how I wanted it to behave. And with a view transition, it's in a way, it's saying you don't have to be so specific. just a before state and an after state, and all the tweening in between is going to be handled. But then even still, you can layer on where you do want control. It's almost exhausting to think about. But that's it. They had a baby, I guess. Now, who knows? Like, it seems like this is more like you'd want the browser to help more with it than pull in a track progress thing. I don't know, though. I don't know what Bramus would say to that. Like, is this just as good as the browser's ever going to get at marrying these two concepts? Or do you think we'll get it more well integrated over time? I do not know the answer to that question. Part of me thinks this is probably about as good as you'll ever be able to do. That it's just weird enough of an idea that it's not, the browsers aren't going to be like, we're going to jump on smashing those two technologies together, knowing that it's not that crazy to just do it yourself with existing libraries. That's what I would think anyway. But Bramus really proved that it is certainly possible to do. I bet there's, even better use case situations than this. I am attracted to the idea that, like, I think this demo is almost too much. Like, there's probably demos out there where you like don't take as much control in CSS. It's pretty cool that he replicated like exactly what this classic demo already was. But there's probably simpler demos that you could do that would be like, oh yeah, that there's barely any CSS at all. All it's doing is linking a before state and an after state of view transitions with this draw. Maybe we'll do that on a future stream. I can imagine, like little cards that deal themselves as you scroll down in the middle of a landing page kind of thing that you could probably do with pretty little amount of code. I don't know, but I would be tempted to do that. I think the amount of CSS in here is like a little intimidating when it's not really the point of this demo. Not that anybody asked me for feedback. I'm just talking now. I better go though. Gotta pick up the kid from summer camp. She's outside at a river camp this year. Pretty rad. Thanks for hanging out. I'll definitely be here tomorrow. Take care, everybody.